Good afternoon, guys. I'm David Vaughn. I hope you understand that you're an hour early. I'm getting the room set up here in a few minutes and get some of the technical stuff underway. But technically, we don't convene until 4 p.m. I didn't want you to stay out there in the waiting room forever, but I just wanted to tell you that's what's going on. Well, Ed Jones, you're on mute. 47% of all the energy used on the internet is telling people that they're on mute and trying to figure out how to get plugged in. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. I should be 4 hours before you. I'm in California.
You're 3 hours.
Well, they rolled the time back 1 hour.
Okay. I'm on the East Coast and
Yeah.
we convened at 4 p.m. and it's about 3:09 right now.
All right. I will see you in about 45 minutes.
Super. I didn't want you to be stuck there in the waiting room thinking that you had been forgotten. So anyway,
All righty. Thanks, Dave.
thank you.
All right. Bye.
Jerry is also on or was on the line.
Jerry
Jerry?
Ingram?
I don't know. Jere. It's always on
Yeah.
his.
That's Jerry Ingram. Okay. See, I,
Anyway,
I told several guys that it was going to be at noon because I figured we're 4 hours ahead of you or
ah,
behind you. But we're only 3. Okay.
okay. Well, I've never figured out exactly how the daylight saving time works.
Well, evidently I got it incorrect as well.
Okay, well, all I know is it gets dark at 2 p.m. right now. So,
Okay. All
eat your
right.
lunch, eat your lunch quick because the lights are going to go out in just a minute.
Okay.
Anyway, all right.
All
We'll
right.
see, we'll see you a little later, Ed.
All right.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Just FYI, they go on daylight saving time too.
Oh, do they? I didn't know that.
Good afternoon, Tony. Good afternoon, Tony.
Hi, David.
How are you?
We- Can you hear me all right?
I can. 5x5. Would you like to use the time to make sure that we have screen share?
I see screen share there.
Okay,
You want me to click on it?
sure.
Okay. I see the PowerPoint.
Bingo. This is obviously intended to be a fall layout from the color of the corn.
That's correct.
Beautiful.
We're back to slide 1 here.
Excellent.
Okay, so it looks like it loads up all right. Is that getting a full screen on the viewer?
It doesn't quite. Let me see what I can do on my end in that regard. I don't know that I have control over that. Let me look. Click. No, I click on the thing that looks like an arrow and it doesn't do anything.
Well, let's see, slideshow, play from start. There it goes. That should
Okay,
be full screen now.
let me see. That doesn't work. Okay. Greg Vigiano, who is more techie than I am on this, may be able to help us in terms of the full screen option.
Well, right now I'm getting a full screen on it, so.
Okay,
Okay, so I'll stop the share right now,
super.
back to where we are.
How
So it
have you
looks like
been?
everything's all set.
Good, thank you. We're gonna have probably 5 minutes of announcements of various shows and so on, and then 10 minutes or so from John Wubble, who has revitalized the old All Nation line. And as soon as we work through that, you'll be the entertainment. I appreciate your coming on. Thank you very much. I know you're a busy guy and have lots of stuff to do.
Well, it's fun to get back in the circle again. All Nation was a important piece of my background. I did an All Nation F3 for O&W and had a cover story on RMC.
I saw that. That was a great story.
And Editor's Notebook started in RMC because I pissed off Bob Colson. I reviewed one of his box cars that is going to run on this railroad, in fact, on the Wabash. And there was the stamping for the roof had the corners of it kind of, the stamping made the corners kind of peek down. And I showed a drawing of how to file off the corners to make it right. And for some reason that offended him. So Hal told me to get on an airplane and go out and make nice with Bob. And as long as I was out in Illinois, go on down to Effingham to the printing plant and see how we printed the magazine. So when I got back, you know, I didn't have an editorial because Hal was still the editor. So I thought, you know, what we need in this magazine's an editor's notebook. So all these things that I run across, I got a place to let them share them with the readers. So Bob Colson was directly involved in starting Editor's Notebook in RMC.
Okay.
So All Nation has a soft spot in my heart in that way, plus the F3.
That's a backhanded way to get a soft spot in your heart, but I understand. Well, we should have probably, I'm guessing, in the neighborhood of 50 people here, and then we rebroadcast it on YouTube and end up usually getting a couple times as many viewers on that as we have. And we offer it as a service to the hobby, so you don't have to be a member of O-Scale Central. There was some tussling over whether we should keep it confidential, and I have a soft spot in my heart to do outreach and reach people who are not in our tent already.
Yeah. No, the more we can just talk about O-Scale, so hey, everybody does it, the better it will be.
Yeah.
You know Larry Stanley? All aboard trains. He makes switch.
Yes. I have a couple of his. They're hellishly expensive, but they're lovely.
Yeah, I'm working with him to get Bethlehem Steel switch stands because the Wabash used them in the Rock Island, Western Maryland, a bunch of railroads. And Overland did them, but they were dummies. And I want them to work. And Larry makes a bunch of switch stands. He originally made them too large. They weren't scale. And but he seems to have that under control now. And when I got talking to him about it, he said that he had some of the masters already done. So it looks like we're gonna get the distinctive looking Bethlehem Steel number 53 switch stands that if you need them, you need them, you know. Ain't cheap though.
We have Jim Cantor is in the waiting room, and Greg Vigiano, who does a lot of work on the production end of this, and some early joiner. I'm going to let them all in.
Hi, David.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
I'm fine. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Greg, I don't know whether you've met Tony Custer, but Tony Custer, Greg Vigiano.
Hi,
Hello,
Greg.
Tony. How are you?
Doing well today. Spent all morning getting the last of the risers in on the Wabash that I'm going to be talking about. So I feel
Oh,
like
that's great.
risers are a pain in the butt. So I'm glad to get that done.
Yeah, I have quite a few of your books in my collection.
Every one of them represents $1 in my pocket.
I'm sure you become, I know you become famous, but I'm not sure you become rich as a result of all of those books. But I looked at, I have John Armstrong's papers. And among other things in the papers are the actual contracts between John Armstrong and Kalmbach. And even subtracting for the fact that dollars were bigger back when he was doing this than they are now, it was a pretty embarrassingly small amount of money. Now, if you're a civilian engineer working for the government, it probably helped, put food on the table, but it's not as though, it's not as though it was Oprah's book of the month in terms of compensation.
It still is that way. The assumption that the model railroad publishers have always made is that you're doing this work for yourself anyway, for the love of it, and the money's just kind of icing on the cake. But when you do stuff kind of professionally like John did, then the rules change, and but the money never changed, and it that's the way it is.
One of the things that John did with his custom layouts, track plans that he did on commission, was have prominently in the display of the graphics and so on say that commercial use for the plans was reserved and was the exclusive right of John Armstrong. And Railroad Model Craftsman a couple of years ago ran one of John's custom layout drawings in the magazine with the restriction prominently displayed in the middle of the drawing, but it didn't seem to bother RMC. I don't know whether they think the statute of limitations is gone or exactly what, but it would have been nice if they had taken that a little more seriously.
You don't know where we're trying to trace down some of John's graphs. He had one that I don't know what he was graphing it against, but one of the axis labels was the probability of divorce.
Right. I may have some of those. As I said, I have his model railroad papers, and they're interesting. Let me look. Yeah, that was one of them. Size of the layout and probability of divorce, and it seemed to be on a 1-to-1 slope.
Yeah. And it was labeled P sub D. Not probability of divorce, but P sub D. And then he explained it when he was giving his talk. So it was, even more engineering ease than you
Yes.
might. He was a master at that subtle humor in his talks. I just loved his clinics.
Well, I have a sign that he had on his layout, which I have copied. And I don't know whether it was his saying or if he got it somewhere, but it sounds very Johnish. And it says, I fully realize that I've not succeeded in answering all of your questions. Indeed, I feel I have not answered any of them completely. The answers I have found only serve to raise a whole new set of questions, which only lead to more problems, some of which we weren't even aware were problems. To sum it all up, in some ways, I feel we are confused as ever, but I believe we are confused on a higher level and about more important things.
That does sound like John. Did you ever get into his drafting room in the basement?
I saw it.
Yeah, we did the first issue of Model Railroad Planning, Paul Dokas, and I think Perry Squire was with me, and I got into the secret lair there with all the curve templates marked and everything, and man, that was like getting in the war room at the Pentagon. You know, that was really a privilege.
Most people didn't even realize he had a second room in the basement that was completely separate from the layout.
Oh yeah, and the layout was such a rabbit warren. I knew my way around it a little bit, and I didn't realize this layout group, tour group, was following me, and so we were down this one dead end, and I didn't want to try to double back to get out of there with all those people there, so I just ducked under, which kind of up in a work area that he had, and as I came up out of sight of all these people, there was this woman that went, "Oh, just, where'd he go? How do we get out of here?" Suddenly there's panic in the troops. I didn't realize I was doing that to him.
Yeah, his aisles were clearly, I'm going to put the layout that I need, and then if I have any room left over, we'll have an aisle.
Most of his track plans were that way.
Well, I have followed in his footsteps. I've got one space that is only 18 inches wide, albeit for only a couple of feet. But that was the only way to shoehorn his layout into my basement.
Keep you healthy.
Yeah, I call it, I say it's it's an O-scale layout for which the aisles are designed for N-scale modelers. So. Good afternoon, Mr. Cantor. You are muted right now. You realize 7% of all the electrons on the internet consist of telling people that they're muted, and then the people trying to figure out how to get on. It's their side. There you go.
Hi, David. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Jim.
Jim,
Tony, you're looking well.
so are you.
Okay, well, you get your glasses checked.
Well,
It's nice to see you.
Yeah. Missed you at the nickel plate convention.
I had 3 things going on that weekend, and I apologize. And I had to flip a coin. The coin landed on its edge, and I had to choose that convention.
well, we used the opportunity to appoint you to several committees, and
I will.
You'll be hearing from everybody.
I'll never miss another one.
Jim, do you know Greg Vigiano? Have you guys met? If you haven't, Jim Cantor, Greg Vigiano. Greg is very helpful on some of the preparation and technical stuff for the online program. And his chief function is saying to me, we've got another program coming up and it's only 2 weeks away and I haven't heard boo shit from you. What are you gonna put on the program?
Yeah, that'll be coming up soon, David, because we need to talk about the last program of the year, December.
Yeah.
And I have one suggestion. I've been working on these trees. I don't know if you can see it. Let me take my background off, and I've been doing 3D printed trees, and the it's going pretty well. And can you see this okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm 3D printing the trees, and the print I've got, so it's okay now. And then I've got a pretty good realistic color, and it taught me that trees weren't really brown. They're more of like a gray. And I think I got the color right. And the next step is to put on some foliage that's going to be as good as the branch work. So if you want me to present on that.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. We gotta, you can go from being the guy behind the curtain to being the entertainment. So good. Plan on it. And we have a new guy who is in charge of our narrow gauge outreach, who is big in the ON30 community particularly. And he's going to do a survey on how to get started in narrow gauge and why you should get started in narrow gauge. And he's got a dog and pony show that he's going to put on. We're looking forward to that.
You know Pete Leach?
I do not.
Pete Leach models the ET&WNC and ON30. And he's got a nice article on model railroad planning, and you might, if you're interested in that sort of thing, I can put you in contact with him. He might do a program.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be good. Well, I'll get the information from you, and we can I'll work with Greg.
There's also a guy doing WWNF, I think, in ON30. So there's several guys doing. That's a big deal, and I think you need to get your arms around it.
Yes, and that's something that, I mean, the ON30 guys tend to be somewhat insular. They think the world doesn't love them and it's not a real gauge and all that kind of stuff. But there's some really good modeling being done in it. We had Al Judy, who was very prominent in ON30, on the program about a year ago. Unfortunately, Al passed away rather suddenly. But yeah, there's some good modeling being done in ON30. I'm not sure that ON3 or ON2 or ON 18 inches, whatever it is, has really quite kept up.
Hey, David, do you want to make me co-host so I can let people in?
Yes, thank you. I always forget that.
That's all right.
And that I go to your screen and I click and it says make co-host. Yes. All right. Welcome back, Ed.
Hello.
Okay. By the way, Greg, I have a flight tonight to Dallas. So at 5:30, I am going to turn into a pumpkin and beat feet for the airport. So if we are still in a Q&A or good and welfare phase, if you can stay on and take it till the end of the program, that would be great.
Okay.
Thanks. I was very pleased, Tony, with both the attendance and the diversity and the enthusiasm for the people at the nickel plate convention.
Yeah, it was a good convention. Let's hope we can keep it up for next year.
Yes, yeah, you and I need to talk about that. Have you had any time for any more? I have not done anything, but I'm more than happy to reach out whenever it is appropriate to get moving.
No, we're wrapping up model railroad planning 2025 now, and I'm buried. So till that, we're about 2/3 the way through it and proofing it, and till that's done, I'm locked home.
Gotcha.
But I do sneak out and work on the Wabash now and then.
Good afternoon, Paul.
Hello, David.
Paul was in charge of the recent renovated Indianapolis O-scale show. It's been up and down and back and forth for a number of years, but Paul seems to have found a formula.
Yeah, I need to update for next year on O-scale Central for one.
Okay, you know the drill.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick.
Good afternoon, Captain Railroad. You must not be hearing us, otherwise it would have drawn a response.
No, he doesn't have his mic working yet. There he goes. Hey, Rick.
Yeah,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon, sir.
I see you've worn your nickel plate shirt in honor of Tony Custer just in time to get him going over to Wabash.
Well, it simply came up every 2 days I rotate. But when I pulled it out this morning, I figured, well, I know some folks on the meet this afternoon will be pleased that I am true for the moment. So Tony's going to Wabash. Interesting.
Well, he's got a project railroad. That's what he's going to tell us about.
Yeah. Okay. Well, of course, I have admired his efforts over many years. I still remember the Allegheny Midland back when he and the Virginian in Ohio and all those guys back in the 60s. It was an inspiring piece of model railroading for somebody that was just finishing high school.
Tony's on the call right now, so you are telling him directly.
Okay, well, I appreciate his efforts over many years, and I'm delighted to see that he is moving on to Proto 480 and the good old Wabash Railroad. So, okay, well, I'm going to go back to mute as usual. I got a dog that's running around, convinced that this husky that's running around is challenging him, and you don't need to hear my dog. So I'll just go on to mute.
All right, well, good luck on mediating that.
Yeah, it's easier said than done.
Good afternoon, Charles.
Good afternoon. How are you guys?
We're good. How are you?
Real good.
What number MMR are you, Charles?
229.
Wow. That's early in the process.
Now I've got all the certificates except chief dispatcher. I've got all the requirements. I told our manager for achievement here took me 30 years to get the requirements. It'd probably take me 30 years to get the paperwork together. I like that Santa Fe F unit set.
Yeah,
And
that's the one I'm modeling right now, and I've had some really good luck with the stainless steel sides because I don't want to use like paint to fake it. So I've got some stainless steel foil. It's going to make it look just like the prototype.
is that like the stuff that the people in the automobile modelers use for chrome?
No, you're thinking of it's that has an adhesive on it, and
Is that too thick?
I forget what it's called. I don't think it's too thick. I just don't think it has the same authenticity that stainless steel foil does.
Okay.
I'll show it to everybody when it's ready. I'm working on a B unit first, just because there's minimal painting on it.
Right.
And then I'll get to the A unit.
Cool. I'm looking forward to seeing
I'll try to have it ready by the next show or the next meeting. Right now I'm working on 3D printing some trees that I'll present next month.
How do you 3D print a tree?
With a resin printer, and it's great because you print them upside down, starting with the bottom, and then the resin print process goes up into the branches, and it's perfect. The only problem is the biggest resin printers these days are a little bit too small. So the biggest tree I can make, scale tree, is about, I don't know, 35 feet, whereas like a maple or an oak could be easily twice that.
Right, yeah.
So I'm gonna experiment a little bit more with that, because I'm trying to figure out how I can print the tree in multiple parts.
Where do you get the artwork for?
I created it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated, but once you have like the basic 3D model of the tree, then you can kind of make variations to like pines and maples and oaks and different species. But let me show you the sample that I have right now. I got to take this background off so it'll pop in. But this is the tree structure, and I've matched the color, the paint, because the trees really aren't brown. They're more of a gray, green, gray brown.
Yeah.
And the next step is to try to figure out how to put the foliage on it to be just as authentic looking as the tree structure.
You could use the polyfoam. Some of the guys around here use the super tree tips and just glue it on with hot glue and then block that.
I'll try that. I found a video on the internet for, like, I think the wargaming guys. They're using a plant called seafoam, and it's almost like a dried flower kind of plant product, and it looks really good. So I'll try that.
I like the super leaves. I've got about 2,500 trees on my layout, and I need about twice that many still to go. All I do is make trees.
Well, if this works, I'll give you a hand.
That would be nice. How do you keep them from all looking alike?
It's something I haven't really tried yet, but I think once the foliage is on the branch structure, it'll be hard to tell.
Okay.
For people who are on the call, we are convening formally at 4, which is in about 5 minutes. But in the meantime, this is what we usually end up with is good and welfare going back and forth with different who's got projects, who's got questions, and it's about as good as we can do in terms of the informality of the pre-start. I know that New Tracks Modeling has some of the same informality in advance of its formal starts.
Question on that tree. Is that a single print, that tree?
No, that one was actually had an upper and a lower that I joined together.
Okay.
And the best way to do it, the easiest way to like glue the two pieces together to keep them together while the glue is setting, even if you're using like super glue, is to drill a hole in each piece and put a wire through it and then match it up. And then to hide the seam, what really works well is is like some Bondo glazing spot putty, and just rub it over the area where the seam is with a Q-tip, and it becomes invisible.
How fragile is it?
Say it again.
Well, how fragile is it?
I'm thinking it's going to be pretty fragile because the resin that I'm using is not that great. But I think there's resins out there that are almost like rubber that will be a lot more forgiving.
Did you even get up and say hi to Sue and Bob?
If you're kind of heavy-handed with it. But I'm really pleased with the way it's coming out, even with this one species, and I think I nailed the paint color. So that's good. The tricky part next is going to be the foliage, and just like you can join the upper and lower half, you can do the same thing with adding branches. And to the question earlier, to keep them from looking all the same, I think you can add branches here and there to kind of vary the. I think Charles asked that question before, and you can kind of like introduce more variation.
I don't know if you use a lot of background trees or not. I just had an article in Gazette that came out on making smaller trees for forced perspective.
Oh yeah, I'd like to read that if you can put a link in the chat.
Okay. I'd have to scan it. I don't have it handy to scan.
Which issue of the Gazette?
The brand new one that just came out.
For those of you who are joined, we will convene the meeting in just a minute or two. In the meantime, we're waiting for the last folks to come in, and consistent with what usually happens in these run-ups to Zoom calls, we've been having an informal good and welfare. For those of you who were listening to part of Greg Vigiano's discussion on some trees, we're going to see that probably even next month as a presentation on December's program. But we'll wait one more minute and then start. By the way, there is a discussion involving the California contingent as to whether the time between the East Coast and the West Coast is 3 hours or 4 hours with all of the daylight savings time. And the answer is it's 3 hours.
And for those that didn't see the tree before that are just joining, here's another shot of the tree.
Looks good, Greg.
Thanks. Well, next month you'll see it maybe with some foliage on it if I'm lucky. And Daryl Blake is joining from Australia. Daryl.
And Brent Hopley from New Zealand, I believe, right?
Hi, David. Kel apologizes. He won't be joining us today. It's his wedding anniversary and he's up at the beach apparently. So
Well, if he doesn't join us, you can assign him to different committees and things like that in his absence, and he'll pay the price.
the only reason I can remind is to say no.
All right, we're going to go ahead and convene. Welcome to O-Scale Central Online. This is the November 17, 2024 edition. I'm David Vaughn. I thank you all for joining us. This online program is brought to you as a service to the scale by O-Scale Central. O-Scale Central is a 501c3 nonprofit. Our job is to promote two-rail O-Scale and support modelers in the scale. We have a great program this afternoon. I am hoping that at some point John Wubble is going to join us, since he had promised an update for all of the projects that All Nation has been working on. And our headliner is Tony Custer, who will be talking about his new O-Scale Proto 48 Wabash based layout, and we're very excited to have him. I do have a couple of announcements that I want to make very briefly. The first is you do not have to be a member of O-Scale Central in order to participate in this program. And in fact, there are a number of programs that we do for the good of the scale. Check out our website, which is oscalecentral.com. It includes not only a lot of material to introduce people to the scale, it includes a schedule of O-Scale events. It includes a product and service guide listing about 200 O-Scale vendors. And those are free to be a vendor and they're free to use. But we do hope that you will look at the things that we are doing to promote O-Scale. And since O-Scale is everybody's favorite scale, if you're already modeling in it, we hope that you will join our cause and pay $24 for a year's membership. You can get that membership through the O-Scale Central website, oscalecentral.com. We hope that you will join us. For those of you who are already members, thank you very much for your support. And we are coming to the end of a membership year. If you join new, by the way, it'll be credited to 2025. If you are already a member in 2024, we would ask that you consider renewing. You can do that through the O-Scale Central online website. There are a number of news flashes that we need to bring to your attention. The first is that the first opening barrage of publicity has been shot for the Chicago O-Scale show in mid-March. There is a Strasbourg show in April. We have just finished the new and revitalized Cleveland O-Scale show, and the Skylar Shippey, who has been the spark plug revitalizing that show, is going to give us an update on it. And finally, I just talked to Paul Hansen, who spearheaded the Indianapolis show. He reports that he is going to be updating that show and getting ready for next year. Out in the ozone is O-Scale West. I have had conversations with Rod Miller. I wasn't sure if O-Scale West 2025 was going to come off. Rod tells me that he is in fact negotiating with the hotel, that they are going to try and move into some less expensive quarters and continue the show either during the Memorial Day weekend where it has been held, or at a new weekend if you can get a better deal with the hotel. And I do want to introduce at a point here Skylar Shippey. Some of you may know already that O-Scale Central officer elections are now in progress. If you are a member, please use your opportunity to vote. We are very lucky to have as the sole nominee for president to succeed me, Skylar Shippey, and Skylar is a real knowledgeable, technically not knowledgeable, prolific modeler, president of the Detroit Model Railroad Club, vice president currently of O-Scale Central, and membership director for the Nickel Plate Historical and Technical Society, as well as being a very active modular O-Scaler and participant with Detroit. And I would like, before we move on, to just have Skylar come on and introduce himself and give us any remarks that he might care to make.
Thank you, David. You had a good summary there of 6 of the, I don't know how many bullet points that I'm involved with currently. Firstly, I want to give my thanks to what you've done for the organization, along with the efforts of others in reestablishing it, identifying it separately from O-Scale Kings, and creating what it is now. So in my presidency, my only goal is to maintain and continue what you did, as well as encourage participation and communication really across the nation for O-Scalers. If we're O-Scale Central, we should be the part and portal where all the members are able to communicate and work together. So that'd be my goal.
Well, we are excited, partly because it's of the old axiom: if you want something done, give it to a busy person. But we're also excited to have the participation of Skylar and Nick Bulgarino and some other people who are single-handedly convincing us that O-Scale is not just for grumpy old men, but also is a new generation of people who are moving into O-Scale and appreciate it the way we always have. I can say that as a grumpy old man myself, but we're delighted to have Skylar coming on board. If you have not joined, please consider joining. Do it through the website, oscalecentral.com. If you're already a member, 2 things. 1, renew your membership. $24 is a bargain for what we do. And second, vote in the election that is now going on. You will have received, if you're a member currently, you will have received an electronic ballot. It has instructions on how to return it. Thank you. All right, let me move on, and I want to do a quick introduction to John Wubble. John is not only a excellent modeler in his own right, but he and his sister have taken it on to revitalize the the All Nation line, which had fallen into almost total disuse and had to have 20 years of dust blown off of it just to figure out what was in sitting on the workbenches and the cabinets. And John has done an absolutely terrific job at that. He has some new projects, and with a short presentation, I understand that John has some slides to show some of the new stuff he's working on. So welcome, John. Unmute yourself if you would, and tell us a little bit about where you are and what the new stuff is.
Okay, thanks, David, for inviting me, and very happy to give you a little presentation today. I was having a little difficult time thinking about what I could present, so what I'm going to share my screen and kind of give an overview of what we been up to this year so far. And some of you may recognize what I'm talking about. And let me see if I can share my screen here.
Should be a green rectangle right in the bottom center.
Yeah, I think I'm going to use the PDF instead of the PowerPoint, and I'll maximize the screen here. It'll do it. Is it showing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, picture's worth 1,000 words, and so we're going to end up showing you some pictures today. The way we're going to do this is by the month. So you'll see my first screen here is January. Trying to give a little.
Hey guys, mute yourselves if you're not talking. Thank you. Matter of courtesy.
Sure, we'll take questions afterwards, or but all I want to do right now is go through these screens really quickly so I don't take up your whole afternoon. And just a lot of photos of some of the products that we were working on. Our website, we have the modeler showcase. A lot of modelers have contributed photos of some of the work they've done. We have a blog. In the February, we got busy and did some of our work on doodlebugs and working up different drive options and mechanisms for different types of models. A lot of these will come in kit form for those that are more interested in do it yourself rather than assembled. And the drives, of course, especially the Helix drives, are the original drives that All Nation came out with many years ago. And we've supplemented that with updating our chain drives. In the March, we ended up at the March show, of course, and I think if I recall, we had about 8 tables, a lot of parts. And, it seems like every show we go to, we come back with more work, various projects, and so we really do love to help modelers. We also partnered with like Precision Scale and Katie and Marty Milner at Scale City to be able to present or bring products to the website. We did the Cleveland show and brought some more of our spin dies over to Marty so he could spin cast more parts for us. So we're kind of working hand in hand with Marty Jr. and Marty Sr. You probably all have met those folks. In the April, we went to the Strasbourg show. Rich Yoder constantly invites us and gives us a couple of tables. And again, mostly what we show are parts. We have tried to emphasize kits and stuff for the beginners at a fairly reasonable cost. Very basic kits, amiable to being super detailed with parts. but it gets some of the modelers with less skills involved, and especially young fellows whose allowance may not be able to afford some of the top of the line stuff. So getting their feet wet. We've also worked with a number of modelers, and particularly on this stainless steel ACL Whopper Hopper. We worked pretty close with another modeler down in South Carolina. His name is Leon Butler. He models Atlantic coastline, and we spent a good number of months bringing this first model as a digital twin, which are parts and patterns for somebody who wants to try to scratch build it in brass. I'm kind of a brass guy myself. And then later on, we came out with the full kit if you just wanted to stay with the 3D printed version and detail parts. So we get involved sometimes with a lot of modelers in the various projects. In June, we just came out with a lot more parts again. And I should stop and say that I have two sisters that have been helping me, and a little bit my son has helped out on the side. But my sister Kathy is the expert on the parts. So when I can't find them to ship them, she usually, I don't know how she remembers all that stuff, but she'll tell me exactly what drawer the stuff is in or bin. And lo and behold, now Loretta is my other sister, and she takes pretty much care of the website and the bookkeeping. And when she has a problem with the bookkeeping, she calls Joe Norman. And Joe has been very gracious in helping us out. We recently came out with a game that Loretta invented, and lo and behold, Jim Cantor was the first person to buy a copy of this game at the Cleveland show. And I sure hope he enjoys it, and possibly his grandson will enjoy it as well. In July, more of the same. We started looking into developing tools, and more washers, 3D printed washers. In the lower left-hand corner is kind of a standard tool you would see in a machine shop. Where we 3D printed that. And I've always found different gadgets like that useful for a third hand when you're trying to glue a part or solder something, and the darn thing keeps moving around on you. So we're trying to come out with helpful aids in that regard. In this screen, the August timeframe, we came out with the American Steel Foundry's truck for the Whopper Hopper. And that's a kit form, and it's kind of unusual because I don't think this truck was used on any other type of freight equipment. It's designed to handle a 135-ton piece of equipment. And later on, we came out with our spring-loaded weaver drive update, principally because I have a couple of weavers that were my grandfather's that needed care. They were basically shelf models, and the sprockets were all cracked. And so we developed that, and we've been slowly developing kits from our reference models, such as Scalecraft flat cars and that sort of thing. You would probably see a variety of those out on the website. In September, we were getting busy with a whole lot of old true scale roadbed that came with the business. And instead of leaving the ties on them, we ran them through the planer and made it so that we could mount our roadbed or track, ready lay track, directly on some of these radiuses. And we 3D print concrete ties so that you can slip your microengineering code 148 rail onto these tie sections, and it's all flex track. And lo and behold, somebody already came and asked if we have it for Proto 48, and I said, we'll think about it. We might very well do that. Also like to give a shout out to Dan Dowdy. He did the bearing caps for the truck for the Whopper Hopper, and he also did the bell that you see in this picture for switcher engine. He did the resin printing for us, and they turned out pretty good. In the future, I think Marty will be casting some of these for us. In October, we went to the Strasbourg meet again and got more work. And one of the projects that came along was Rich Randall gave me a little project to fix one of his drives for his, I believe it was Fairbanks Morris Sea Liner. That actually had an all-nation drive in it. And then Mac gave us a project to work on a Lionel switcher. And what he wanted was to see if we could mount our transmissions into the blunt truck. And I'm not sure if we can show that on here or not, probably because I'm sharing the screen. But we did implement that. Now we got to see if we can mount that in the body. And that's kind of a long-term project. We'll see him again in April 2025 and continue working with him on that.
That's going to be a Lionel shell, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, he gave me the shell here, and we may have to do a little something with the floor. It's a beautiful kit, or not, actually it's not a kit. This I think was a dummy, so it doesn't have a motor or anything in it, but he wants it powered. So we'll throw the transmission in there and put a motor in and get her going. So moving on, in November, in just about a week and a half ago, 10 days, we finally got all the parts back for the all-nation brass 40-foot boxcar. And this boxcar was done in 1980, and only 100 units were run. So we decided to run another 100 units. They're beautiful. We worked with a stamping company down in Southampton, Pennsylvania, and they took our dies, and they really turned out nice. So I kind of wanted a couple for my own collection, so that was one impetus to go ahead with the project. And I've had a number of requests from modelers that wanted to know if we still had some of the original ones, and they're kind of hard to find. So I think the brass modelers will enjoy getting their hands on this kit. In addition, we've had some center sills, brass center sills done for the 42-foot outside brace boxcar. And we went to the Cleveland show, so good shout out to Skylar. Well done. We again, really enjoyed talking with everybody there, and made some new friends. And, hopefully we'll be there next year. So trying to stay true to the vision, a world in which O-scale two-rail lives on in the hearts and minds of young and old model railroading community. Promote the final art of O-scale, sharing our techniques, new technology that we're involved with, like the 3D printing. And when we were in the Chicago March show, we met up with Terrell Colson, Bob Colson's son, for breakfast. And if you ever get a chance to talk to him, he's full of knowledge and a big traction guy. And so I'm going to stop sharing and stop talking in case anybody wants to ask some questions. Be glad to try to answer.
We've got a rather packed program with Tony's presentation, but we've got about 5 minutes for questions. Anybody got any?
Yeah, hi, it's Brent Hopley from New Zealand here. Any chance of getting a copy of that PDF sent through to us on the email?
Copy of what?
Of the PDF that you just showed us.
Yeah, I can, you send me an email, I'll reply back and attach it to the email and send it to you.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Any other questions? Well, John Wubble has done a fantastic job of not only bringing back the old All Nations stuff, which was really an important part of the scale for a long time, but has had a continual list of new projects, grafting new technology onto the All Nation models and building new models himself. I think that the stuff he's doing is great. I hope you guys will support him, let him know what you're looking for, and by all means, spread the word to other folks. He's got lots of parts from the old All Nation if you got stuff that needs replacement, and he's got a lot of new stuff too. So thank you very much, John. You're doing a great job and really supporting the scale.
Well, thank you, David. And I should mention too that we have a copy of your Lima engine right here that we're going to be working on this week for you.
Thank you.
It's a beauty.
That. Dylan Lambert of Lambert Locomotive Works has been doing interesting projects, one of which is a Lima Locomotive Works diesel switcher. As a nickel plate fan, they had a bunch of them, but they come just as a 3D printed shell. And I am working with John to make a mechanism which will be designed for that. Dylan is also doing a Fairbanks Morse 1044, I think it is, and John is working on those as well. The only problem for John is every time he goes out, he comes back with more work. So good luck on keeping current on that. We really appreciate it. Thank you, John.
Thank you, David.
All right, and at the end of the program, hopefully we will have some time for more of an open-ended discussion, more of a good and welfare. Right now, let me move along. I have known Tony Custer and worked with him for an extended period of time. He is not only, and I say this selfishly, not only the biggest pitchman for the nickel plate road of anybody around, but really not only an excellent modeler, but a closet O-scaler. Several years ago, he did a model for a project for Model Railroader on Wingate, and now Tony has a new project in progress, and I'm very excited about that, and it will provide, as his prior layout did, a real showcase for O-scale 2 rail. Tony has a PowerPoint that he's going to share with us. Tony?
Thanks, David. This is not a project railroad for Model Railroader. They kind of vetoed it in the sense of doing it as a series. But I'm doing a book next year on branch line railroads, and it will be a chapter in the book, and then individual articles on the railroad will be in Model Railroader. So also in Model Railroad Planning. So it will be in MR and MRP, just not as a set piece series of 5 parts like it was in the Wingate series in MR. So it'll be a little different, but it'll still be covered. So let me share screen here, and let's see if we can bring this up. And okay, it should be there. Is everybody seeing it all right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. I give this talk to a large number of audiences, and for them, it is something completely different. For you, it's probably pretty much the same thing in O scale, but there's some rationale behind it that we'll get into it. We'll talk about why build another model railroad. I'm not tearing down the nickel plate. That's in the basement. This is up in my what used to be a 3 seasons porch. Now it's a 4 season porch. Why O scale? Why Proto 48? Why the Wabash Highline? We'll talk about all those things. Why Proto 48 fine scale? For one thing, the oversized wheel flanges and the width of the wheels are a little bit more visible in O scale than they are in HO. And I'm modeling a branch line, as we'll get into, and that gets you down into the smaller rail sizes, and you can get flex track in fine scale, but it's code 125 and 148. You can't, to the best of my knowledge, get code 100 or code 83 flex track. So you're going to have to hand lay the track anyway. So as long as you're doing it, why not get the gauge correct? You may regret buying into that theory, as I'll talk about a little bit. Katie now makes a really nice scale coupler, so you don't have to assemble brass couplers and deal with those problems. And there's a pretty good commercial support for Proto 48. And there's also group support. There's even a Proto 48 chat group. So you're not really out on this desert island all by yourself. Back in the 60s, Mel Thornburg did a series of articles on scratch building a Wabash Mogul. And Chemtron then came out with a kit. And believe it or not, that kit is still available from Right Away Models. That's a guy named Jay Criswell out in California. And then as now, I did not feel qualified to build that model, but I've always admired those little moguls. And so recently, with the help of Jay Criswell and David Vaughn, I acquired 2 of them. And this is one of the ones that I acquired. And Jay has them both, and he's Proto 48ing them. But if you know Jay, just narrowing the gauge a little bit is only part of the issue that you get into. He did that, and then he didn't like the drive, so he redid the drive, and he wasn't happy with the noise, so he redid the drive again. And then he didn't like the way the tender trucks were riding, so he 3D printed new bolsters. And that's Jay. But I'd had experience working with Jay before on the Wingate project when he built a chassis for a Red Caboose GP9 for me. And it cost me $1,000, but it ran like a Swiss watch. So, you know, when you're dealing with Wabash Moguls on a branch line with a speed restriction of 25 miles an hour, and most of it probably at 15, you can't screw around with the drive. It's got to run perfectly. And so that's where you get into Jay and some money. That sleek looking mogul you just saw in the picture, that ain't the way they look towards the end. And I'm modeling in the 50s. We'll discuss that too, as to why. This is the way those engines looked when I'm modeling them. And this is that same engine, 573. This is Bluffs, Illinois. There was a 3-stall roundhouse and a turntable. And to me, I'm not a shiny engine guy. I like things showing that they earned the living. And so to me, this is the way that engine's going to look when we get it done. Now, there are more than one branch line that ran these moguls out of the Decatur, Illinois area. They were all in Illinois except one of the branches, the one I'm modeling, ran to Keokuk, Iowa. But why this particular one? I mean, you know, you gotta, when you're modeling a railroad, you can't say I'm modeling the Wabash. I mean, that's kind of a big chunk of railroad. And you can't even say I'm modeling one of the Wabash mogul branch lines because there are a bunch of them. And even when you get down to one branch line, you got to make choices. So why this particular one? Well, the branch line that ran from Bluffs, Illinois to Keokuk, Iowa, had to cross the Illinois River at a place called Meridocia. It looks like Docia, but it was pronounced Docia. And they went across this rickety old bridge for years and years and years. I mean, those guys had guts. And those are the only engines that could go across there. If you took a Wabash Jeep, like a GP7 across there, you'd be in a U-boat real fast. You'd go right through that bridge. So after the Wabash was completely dieselized, these little moguls were still running. So that means that this line survived in steam longer than any of the other branch lines, and particularly the main line. You can see the power plant there in Meridocia. That was a big customer. Now, it'd be nice to model Meridocia and this bridge, but you can see that it's 22 feet long in O scale, and my porch is 25 feet long. So it would eat up one whole side of the porch. So it's, you know, a bridge too far. Just no, can't do it. Here's a map of the Wabash. And essentially it was the Kansas City and Omaha line that ran to Detroit and then through Canada to Buffalo. And they also got to Chicago and Toledo. You can see that blue circle there. That is the Bluffs to Keokuk line. You can see a kind of an L-shaped piece there. That was long gone by the time I'm modeling. So we're just dealing with that straight line that went from Bluffs, where it connected with the main line, toward Keokuk. And I've highlighted two towns, Bluffs and Mount Sterling. Those are the two towns we're going to be talking about. You can get the equipment to model this branch line if you're diligent and you don't mind spending some money. Overland did both the square window or square cupola and a streamlined cupola caboose. And thanks to a couple friends that are experts on this line, I managed to get two of the square cupola cabooses. So I'm all set for cabooses. If you go back in time, they ran a mixed train on this line, and it was unusual in that the Wabash had these twin door bag combines, and that would be a kit bash of a plastic combine, scratch building project, or maybe this New York Central combine painted Wabash and change the doors on the baggage car a little bit. You'd get by. I think Precision Scale has this. This is one of David Vaughn's models. But this is too early for me. I don't have to deal with that. This is the track plan that I came up with. When you're modeling an O scale, as you guys know, you have to start winnowing down your ambitions pretty fast. As an HO guy who's modeled an O scale on and off over the years, I have to keep reminding myself that it eats up space pretty quickly. So I had to drive along the branch line and pick what I thought was probably the only two towns I had space to model. And I picked Bluffs because that's where it tied into the main line, which is that blue line up at the top. That's the Kansas City, Detroit, Buffalo main line. And that's where they would interchange with the main line every day. And you also had a turntable and some stuff. Their roundhouse, we'll talk about that in a minute. And then I had to pick another town along the line, and I chose Mount Sterling, and we'll talk about why that was. And it turns out that Mount Sterling looked like the best bet just from the number of industries and stuff, but there was an operating reason to choose it as well that I didn't even know about at the time. Here's a USGS map. Those of you who aren't from the Midwest, I grew up in Iowa and Indiana. I was born in Iowa. When you see names like Bluffs and Mount Sterling and their the state name Illinois follows them, you think, what? Well, you can see from this USGS map that the Illinois River has created a floodplain, which is that white area in the middle. And you can see Maridocia where that big bridge was. From Bluffs up to Maridocia was just flat as a pancake. But you can see why it was called Bluffs, because the east side of the riverbank is pretty steep there where it comes down into Bluffs. And then as you cross over the Illinois River and head northwest towards Keokuk, Iowa, you can see that you whack right into some pretty hilly terrain pretty quick. I marked Bridge 283, which was out in the floodplain. I chose it to model because I wanted to have a bridge scene on the railroad. I'll show you a picture that is why I wanted to model it. But you can see it gets pretty windy around as it goes up to a place called Versailles. Illinois doesn't do real well with French, Des Plaines and Versailles and, but they get by. And it gets up to Mount Sterling, and, calling anything in the state of Illinois mountain is kind of a stretch, but and particularly when you get there, it's pretty flat, but apparently somebody thought that was a pretty high place. The whole line is it's the Wabash 11th District, but it's called the High Line. And nobody's quite sure why. One reason might be that they crossed this floodplain on a high fill. Another reason might be that they climbed up into the high country there. Whatever, it's kind of a neat name. So this is the piece I chose to model, Bluffs over Bridge 283, not the big bridge up to Mount Sterling. So let's make a case for choosing Bluffs. You have an interchange with the Wabash main line, a roundhouse and turntable, a neat coal loader, 2 water columns, not just one. You can animate them, swing them around so they seem to load coal in the tender. And animating things is very important, because if you tell a crew to stop for water and it's not animated, they feel like an idiot. You're sitting there by a water tank or a water column and nothing's happening. It's much better if it's animated. And I'll show you examples of that. Probably a tall concrete grain elevator. We don't know when the wood one was replaced. 2 petroleum dealers in a stockyard. So we got some business there in that little town. So the one of the moguls could do all this work in the morning before they even left town. So you got a lot going on there. Here's a valuation map, And you can see I've called out everything from the junction where in the upper left where the main line split off to the lower left, and the junction went straight. And the two oil dealers, Standard Oil and Pine Oil, the roundhouse and turntable, the water column, cinders. You get guns in there being loaded with cinders from the steam engines. You got coal and sand. Those are industries. You can't overlook those industries that are, you know, as far as a model aero is concerned, they're just as big as industries as an oil dealer or something like that. The stockyards only have room for just the loading chute, but that's okay. Still an industry. And then a depot and another water column, one Sheffield and one Poge water column. And that's a depot, kind of nice board and batten depot and stuff. So it's a nice, neat little place to model. Interchanges, this on my nickel plate, where the nickel plate and CNEI interchange at Cayuga, Indiana. Those are really important because if you look here, there's two parallel or concentric tracks. One of them serves the grain elevator in the background, and you get maybe 3 cars a day out of there. And they're all box cars loaded with soybeans or corn or something. But on the track where that CNI Jeep is, you get a much greater quantity of cars a day. And there could be any kind of cars. I mean, you can see box cars in a hopper, but you could have an aquarium car, a Hershey bar car, and you know, any kind of car you want on that interchange. And because I assign a crew to that interchange, the traffic cycles during the day. Now, some of my interchanges are automated, and so you get up to 4 cycles a day out of those interchanges. So here's the grain elevator. I go to all the trouble of having to build the grain elevator, and I get 4 lousy cars out of it. And the interchange track that I don't have to build a structure, and I get all this traffic out of it. So interchange tracks are hugely important on a model railroad. Now here's the key structures in Bluffs. At the top is the Bluffs Roundhouse. It used to be 6 stalls. They knew I didn't have room for it in my model railroad, so they tore it down to 3 stalls, which was nice of them. They had a humongous wood coal dock for the steam engines right in the middle of the yard. I didn't have room for that. So they tore that down and put a steel ogle coal dock right in front of the depot, which would have been right in our way when we were trying to switch the yard. And nobody makes a small ogle steel coal dock in O scale. They make a bigger one, but not the small one. So I couldn't get that. It'd be a pain to build, and it'd been right in our way. So they had a derailment in 1951 and tore it down, which was nice of them. So then they did a Red Devil coal loader here by the roundhouse. One of these, you can see the roundhouse and stuff there. So I lucked out again. And then you can see the turntable, and if you look very carefully above that automobile by the turntable, you can see Pine Oil Company. And I drew the tracks through those buildings there. If you look very carefully above those white lines I drew, you can see 2 oil tanks there, and that's Standard Oil. And then the engine switching in the yard. So Bluffs is a neat place, got a lot of neat things to build. Again, that's another picture of the of that oil tanks, stuff like that, and also there's that grain elevator, the concrete one, big tank, big silos weren't there in the 50s, but you can see the relationship of the depot to the grain elevator right across the tracks, and just where on the left side of that picture where the crossing gate flashers are was a big tank for steam engines, and right in front of the depot was a let's see, I think that was a Poge water column there. And then the GP7, they got those in the 50s, so I can have a Jeep 7 just sitting there idling. And I already bought one and we're getting it custom painted. So, that brings the freight in from the mainline local to serve the yard there. Now, you got to be really, really diligent about looking at photographs to find things. I didn't notice for the longest time on the valuation map that black circle there says stock pins. And I completely missed that for like a year. And one day I just suddenly noticed what it really said. And then I wondered what it looked like. And Lake State's Railway Historical Association's got all these neat photographs, most of them by a guy named Ed Welcome. And they have these watermark prints and you can buy the better prints. But I just the other day, I mean, like a week ago, was looking at this. I was looking at that Wabash Gone over on the left side, and I looked over at the right side, and there's the picture of the stock pins. So now I know what they look like. So I'll get a better print and have it blown up, and you can see beyond the stock pins, the water tank and the depot. So you really have to examine photographs carefully, or you're going to miss stuff. Now, Mount Sterling was my other choice. And I chose it for the industries there, but just after I made my choice and said, that's it, Chet French, an old friend of mine, I've known him for decades, he said, well, that's where the switch local went. And I said, the what? Well, every day they called a switch local. They got a train together and it switched the towns up to Mount Sterling and turned around and came back to Bluffs. Oh, how neat's that? I mean, that's perfect. I don't have to fake the local not going beyond Bluffs because it didn't go beyond, Mount Sterling, because it didn't. It went right to Mount Sterling and it didn't turn. There was no turntable there or anything else. So it had to back in one of the two directions. And so I'm going to head up to Bluffs, or it's Mount Sterling, and then back up to Bluffs. So lucked out. There's a lumber yard, but it's not on the railroad. It's across the street. There's a brick and tile plant that doesn't have a siding. So they apparently loaded cars on the passing track. There's a coal dealer. And I found a guy that now owns a grain elevator there. And he had a relative that ran the coal dealership. So we're getting information there. There was a wood water tank. And we'll talk about that in a second. There were two large grain elevators, and one of them's amazing, and at least two petroleum dealers and a stockyard. And if you look like in the high school yearbooks, these people bought courtesy ads in the high school yearbook. So you'll see, Joe Blow's petroleum dealer or Joe Blow's Oldsmobile dealer. So had to get Oldsmobiles into town. So there was a unloading ramp. Now, the water tank on the left is Broadway Limited, and it's animated. You push a button and the spout comes down, and the water sound and go back up. And they make this at O scale. I got one. This is HO. I took the guts out of it and put it into this Tichy steel tank because I didn't need a wood water tower on the nickel plate. But in O scale, I'll just paint this thing the Wabash colors and maybe change a few details on it. I don't like the looks of the spout particularly. And but Grantline or somebody's got to have now San Juan has got to have a better looking spout than that. And I'll weight it down a little bit. So, again, when you tell the guys you got to take water before you go back to Bluffs, it's a lot easier to get them to do that and enjoy doing it if the spout actually goes up and down and the water sounds come out of it rather than just having it sit there like a lump of plastic and not do anything. Now, when you're doing serious prototype modeling, which means you're paying attention to things instead of just doing what you want, there's timelines that you got to look at, but you can get yourself in trouble by being too serious about that. One of the main elevators in Mount Sterling that I really want to model burned down in 1949. I just found that out about 2 months ago. Nuts. The Ogle Steel Coal Dock was demolished by a derailment in 1951. Well, okay, that doesn't bother me. GP7s delivered in 1951. So right there it tells me I can't go back beyond 1951, or I lose the Jeep 7s. I got to build this. I got to somehow get this steel coal dock and put it right in the middle of the yard where I don't have room for it and where it's blocking us. So I don't want to go back beyond 1951. But now we got the coal dock or the grain elevator burned down. The branch is down to 2 trains a day, one each way, plus a switch local by 1939. That's not a big deal. Number 587, which is the engine I want to model, got a clear vision tender in 1953. Well, that would be a major project to make a clear vision tender. I got a whole railroad to build. I don't have time to screw around building clear vision tenders. So now there's the other bracket on the other end is 1953 and then deslized in 55. So I'm trapped between 1951 and 1953, and I'm going to have to ignore that grain elevator burning down if I want to model it. Now, let's look at what I'm modeling here. Branch line track, now you see it, now you don't. It's going to be pretty weedy, but I'll tell you, I'm not going to let a weed get within 2 inches of that main line until everything's running perfectly. The last thing you want to do is start putting weeds between the rails until you get Proto 48 stuff really running well, because it's got to be tweaked before you mess with it. The key structures in Mount Sterling, the water tower is just off to the left of this picture. You can't see it. There's a great big tree between the water tower and the depot. You can see the branches there. The depot used to be really long. You can see 2 freight doors there. It was great big, but they knew I didn't have room for that, so they whacked off that end of the depot. Very nice of them. I'll show you a picture of it. So now it's a modelable size. Then there's the Alford grain elevator. That's the one that burned down. Nice conventional looking grain elevator right next to the tracks. And I'll be darned if I'm not going to model that thing. Now that mansard looking house that's down there right in the middle of the picture, that's a grain elevator. It was a flour mill at one point in time, and it's a Mount Sterling elevator. And if you look at it, it's turned away from the tracks. It's sitting at about a 30-degree angle to the tracks or 20-degree angle to the tracks. And we couldn't figure out for the longest time how they could even load grain or whatever they were doing onto the railroad cars. But we finally found a Sanborn fire insurance map that showed a spout that went clear out from that building out to the railroad track. So you just got to keep digging and digging and digging. Over at the far right was a power plant, but it was gone by the time I'm modeling. And there was also a siding added right down about the middle of this picture. It's not there. And there was also a brickyard in the distance there. Here's that grain elevator at the upper left when it was active. That's what used to be that mansard roof building. And the way it looks today, if you look above the second wagon that tractor is pulling, and then you look in the shadows at the picture at the lower right and the left end of the building, you can see the same wall with the same windows. but boy, did that building change. You can see in the Sanborn Fire Insurance map, it says feed mill, and then it says grain spout. So that's how we knew that they ran a grain spout way over to the railroad tracks. So again, if you keep digging, you'll find stuff. This is a photograph that Vintage sells and for like $100 and some bucks. So I deal with their watermark pictures, but it shows oil dealers on the left, and on the right it says stockyard, and it's actually the McClellan, like Alan McClellan stockyard, and you can see it's a roofed-in stockyard, which is nice because you don't have to build all the pens and stuff. So that gives me a stockyard and a couple of oil dealers. The cement plant in the foreground there is post N&W merger. There was also Boydston Lumber. I have a picture of it before it was modernized, which is a much more interesting building. So we know that was there in the 50s. And they must have got their lumber on the team track. Now, modeling crops is something you got to do if you're doing modeling the Midwest. If you notice, these rows of soybeans are really, really neatly organized, like military soldiers all lined up in a row. Today, you wouldn't see that. You just see a carpet of beans. But back in those days, you had to mechanically cultivate or weed the rows. So you have a tractor down between the rows, and you pulled a cultivator, which is like a small hoe or like a small plow, behind you to get the weeds out of there. So the soybeans are really, really neatly organized and planted. And a guy named Jason Clockey from Iowa, he's a professional railroad engineer, but models the Chicago Great Western, beautiful, beautiful modeler. And he found these bushy brown pipe cleaners, and you spray them with Eileen's tacky glue and coat them with leaf flakes, and they make perfect soybean rows. And you can spray them with the yellow if you want the more mature soybeans, and they make bigger ones than this yet, so I can do them on scale. In the distance there are JTT corn. I call that negative farming. It costs that little cornfield there probably cost $100 or maybe even more than that. In an O scale, I'm sure it costs more than that. In the distance of the wheat field, and those are just mats. But in O scale, it's a little more difficult. So I don't know what I'm going to do in the O scale modeling of wheat. I found one way of saving some bucks. Rather than buying a whole field of JTT corn, buy the model of the fall when the corn is fired or mature, and buy a corn picker and have most of the field harvested. And if you've ever used Scenic Express super trees, there's those little curlicues you got to pull out of the armatures and crush them up and sprinkle them down on the field, and you get a look kind of like the looks of harvested corn, and the corn is just grass seed. Now, here's a 3-month progress report. I started on this railroad in mid-August. I waited and waited and waited to get this mini split air conditioner heater installed, and finally got it installed in mid-August. So on August 14th, the first bench work was up. So as fast as I could go, I got the bench work up on August 28th. So that's 2 weeks, and the bench work is essentially up. And you can see 2 views of it. It's a U-shaped railroad, as you might remember from the plan. There's a drop gate to get you into the living room on the left side of the lower right-hand photo. And the door to the backyard is is left open at all times. This is a photo I took last night. I'm fessing up to where I am right now. In fact, this morning and this afternoon, before I got ready for this talk, I was still putting in the risers along the right side of the photo. There were 6 of them that were not in yet. Well, they're all in. I just finished the risers. You can see at the lower right how dark it was with the regular room lighting. But I built this lighting canopy, and in the middle of the screen is the Barina, and there's other companies too that make these LED strip lights. They're not, they're like fluorescent replacements. They're not tubes that you snap in, but they're an entire fixture, and they're really lightweight, and you can butt them end to end or you can string them out further, and they give you everything you need to do that. And the top picture then is how the railroad looks with those turned on when it's dark outside, and you can see how beautifully even and 4000K color the railroad is illuminated with those lights. I mean, they're just wonderful. And Barina is one of the better brand names. They're T5s, and they make them in, I use the 2-foot lengths, but they make them in maybe 3s, but also 4-foot lengths. You can see at the left side the water tank and the mock-up of the grain elevator at Mount Sterling. You can see the tie strips are in Mount Sterling. I'm waiting for ballast to come. And tomorrow's project is to finish gluing the Homoso road bed in at Bluffs, which is off to the right there. So making good progress for essentially 3 months on the model railroad. The bridge scene that I wanted to model, I was very struck by this shot that Phil Hastings took. But that bridge was a little longer than I wanted to model, so I picked Bridge 283, which is a little shorter. And this is Bridge 283. Notice there's no lateral bracing on it, just the bents. And we had good drawings and everything, so we knew exactly the dimensions and the spacing. I have no idea why the weird spacing on the bents. I talked to a bridge engineer, and he doesn't have any idea either. But they had it on a tangent, and I had to put it on a curve, so that weird spacing gave me places to break the bridge into segments of a curve, so I could curve it around it on a 50-inch radius pretty well. That pink foam you see there is going to be a cornfield, so everything worked out pretty well. And whoops, this is how Bridge 283 looks today. So it worked out pretty well. So that's it, folks. I just want to thank some people. The 3 experts that really guided me are Rob Adams, Gary Rowe, and Chet French. Rob and Gary are brand new friends I made by getting in this project. Chet I've known for 100 years. I got a research team of Jeff Halloran and John Golden, Ray Breyer, and Frank Odina, and the Brown County Historical Society and the Wabash Historical Society. Big help. Of course, I immediately joined as a sustaining member of the Wabash group to thank them for their help. And then the mogul finders, Jay Criswell and David Vaughn, were a big help. So that's the big story, and I hope this is the way you remember what I've been doing. But it's going to be a long time before the rest of the railroad looks like that. But I got a book deadline of April 1st, and I wanted to have at least one more piece of the railroad looking this good by then. So anyway, that's it.
Super. Thank you very much, Tony. We have some time for questions. Are there questions? And in general, rather than have everybody start, why don't we start toward the front of the alphabet in terms of your last name and sort of wander on back through. So if anybody's got any questions or comments, now's the time to ask. Anything else? And this is a very thorough presentation, so there's certainly no requirement that we have questions or comments.
Well, I got a question, David. Tony, what's the best and easiest way to animate the spout for the water tower or water tank?
Buy it from BLI. They've got a servo in there, and they got a, well, you know what a servo does, so it's just as obvious as can be. When I did the steel one, it was a bit of a nightmare because it's real easy to do if you got a flat floor on the water tank, because you can go right outside with it. But on a steel tank, you got a conical floor, so the spout is way down below, and I did an article in Model Railroader on how I did that, but it was as much luck as engineering, and it worked perfectly. My crew is, we've never had a failure since I built the thing, but the best bet on that is just to buy the Broadway one. They quit making it in like 2017 or something, so I did old scale yard sale, I guess it was, and I found I don't know what I found, 3 of them or 1 of them. Anyway, I got 1 of them, and $145.
BOI?
Hmm?
The name of the company was BOI?
Broadway Limited.
Okay.
They make some old scale stuff too. They're primarily HO, but they make some old scale stuff.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments for Tony?
I had one comment. I modeled the Chicago Great Western, and for a good number of years, I've been a collector of postcards for historical purposes, primarily on roads in Iowa and Illinois. And the advantage is they seem to document history pretty well if you find the right ones. You may have some publisher data on them, or even the people who write on the back of the postcards information. But I take those postcards and I scan them in a real high resolution. And then I have a friend over in Europe that runs them through an artificial intelligence application to colorize them. And when they come back, the detail just pops out. It's amazing, that technology, that things you wouldn't see in just a small postcard. So my suggestion is it's an interesting way to find out about things. And I kind of focus around 1906, 1907 Chicago Great Western for those postcard collection I have.
Now you got me wondering if somebody snooped around the High Line.
Well, also I noticed that it seems like a lot of train wrecks were documented through postcards over the years. And for instance, Gladstone, Iowa, seemed like they had an awful lot of wrecks over in that area, and I don't know why.
Thanks.
Thank you, John. Anybody else? Well, I'd like to thank Tony, and I'd like to thank John Wubble for sharing their modeling, and in particular their newest accomplishments with us. I want to thank each of you who have participated. We do this for the O-Scale community. We are happy to have you grace us with your presence. We're happy to have you pass along what we do to your friends and fellow modelers. We do this every month, and the next program will be on Sunday, December 15. Watch for announcements. We've had very good cooperation from Dan Dowdy at O-Scale Resource. He allows us to use his extensive list as well as our O-Scale Central membership lists. This program and all other programs, unless we have a technical screw up, are recorded, and they are posted on YouTube, and they are accessible either through YouTube or through our website, oscalecentral.com. So if you have friends who missed this but would want to see it, it will be posted. It may take a couple of weeks, but it will be posted. And if you want to see the program again, you can do that through YouTube. There's lots going on in O-Scale, and I want to flag again the schedule of coming events that we have on our website. They're literally looking through it. There are not only some great all-scale shows that include O-Scale components, like the Cocoa Beach Prototype Rails meet coming up in January 9 through 11. There's an O-Scale South show, which is a relatively small show, but really well run, and they have a lot of good people and a lot of good models. O-Scale South, that's February 22nd in Roswell, Georgia, which is just outside of Atlanta. The Chicago March meet is March 20th through 23rd. The information, it's in Lombard, Illinois, just west of Chicago. Great show, probably the mother church of all two-rail O-Scale shows. If you've never been, do it. You can see 1,000 O-Scale modelers and 300 plus tables. Skylar Shippey's going to have his modular layout there. There are going to be clinics and meetings, and O-Scale Central sponsors what we call a social evening, which is adult beverages and lots of model railroading stories. Harrisburg, East Penn Trolley, Strasburg, the National Narrow Gauge Convention, where O-Scale Central is going to be participating, are all coming up. It'll give you an excuse to go on oscalecentral.com to look them up. One of the things I want you to look for while you're looking at our website is this. Since the demise of the Walthers large-scale catalog, and I know a lot of you are old enough to remember and be fond of, and since the demise of retail hobby shops, remember those, there really hasn't been a central place where people can go and find O-Scale two-rail products and services. And so we put together this registered guide. We have about 200 O-Scale two-rail vendors and service providers, manufacturers, retail shops, small manufacturers, and so on. And the guide is indexed and searchable, and it's free to be listed and it's free to use. We do this as a service to the scale. As we do this program, if you are already plugged in, we think that if you like the scale, we need you to support us. So joining is a good thing. Again, you can do it through the website, oscalecentral.com. We have tripled our membership since the low point where we started. but we have a lot more to do, and we can do more if we have more resources, both money and people. So we encourage your participation. We think O-Scale 2 rail is the best kept secret in model railroading. And we're working to fix that. And we have a number of programs either in effect or underway that will get us out not only through the internet and through places like the oscalecentral.com website, but we're trying to get out to the, I guess you'd call it retail outreach to non-O-scale train shows. We all know how good O-scale models look when you see them operate, and we think that if we can show people that, we can do a lot to increase the number of modelers in O-scale, which in turn is going to increase the amount of models that we have, new projects, and so on. So we are working hard. We think we have earned the scale's trust, and if we have, I hope that you all will join us. There are a few people on the program that I want to pay special recognition to. One is Dennis Brennan, who is our new manufacturing liaison. Dennis runs Dennis Model Railroading Products. He has ballast, he has structures, and so he knows a little bit about the pain and the glory of being a manufacturer, and he is our new manufacturer liaison. Say hello, Dennis, if you are still on the call. I saw you earlier. Maybe he's gone. Okay. Scott Kay has been doing our website and has been doing a great job. Really appreciate it. Ken Nesper, our secretary, runs a very organized shop that makes our organization a lot easier to work with. And we also have several of the board members and advisors on the call as well. And I want to thank them for their participation. We've got a lot of interesting things going on. I note, by the way, that we have a chat function. If you are not experienced with Zoom, if you look down at the bottom of your screen, you will see a little dual thought bubble that says chat. And if you go on there, there are people who have been asking questions and providing information throughout the course of the show. And I hope that you will take a look at those. They're a good way to communicate as well. So that really is at the end of our formal presentation. And in fact, I got to run in a minute to catch a plane out of town. But two things. One is the technology allows us to have co-hosts, and Greg Vigiano will be available to continue the program for at least a little while. And the program that we use at this end of it is basically sort of what we used to call in organizational meetings, good and welfare. This is where you can ask questions, you can introduce yourself and tell us what you model. We can have a back and forth that lasts sometimes a good amount of time, sometimes only a short amount of time. It really depends on how many people want to stay on and through the fat. We've had some very good and interesting discussions, and I don't want to cut that off. And so we are adjourned formally. I want to recognize a guy that I have just become friends with because he's doing such cool stuff. Dan Rabel has been working with 3D printing, and he's from Cleveland, And among other things, I don't know if you guys remember, but going in and out of Cleveland Union Terminal, it used to be electrified, and the catenary supports and platforms and signals are still there. And he has done some absolutely fabulous work with reproducing O-scale models of these catenary supports and signals. And Dan, why don't you, if you, he may be away from his, there you go.
Oh, I'm right here. Yes.
Right there, and right in the back. Tell us just a minute about about what you're doing with Cleveland Union Terminal stuff. Yeah, I know you got a lot of other projects too.
Oh, sure. Yeah, thanks. What you're seeing on the screen is a portion of what I've been working on. This is the Cuyahoga River Viaduct approach from the west of the Cleveland Union Terminal, which still exists today, supporting service with light rail. Of course, in the past, it served the main lines in and out of the terminal. So I've always been fascinated with the catenary structures, and now they exist in an O-scale reality. These are 3D printed from a series of smaller modules. So I've got basically the cross truss and the uprights and the electrical and transformers, all kind of as separate elements, as well as the bridge piers. And so I had a few of these on display at the O-scale show, just in a little diorama module. I had to selectively compress it to 6 feet long because that's how long the tables are, and a 2-track main instead of 4. But just as a way to kind of showcase them, I have shared this along with all of my 3D files online for anyone. So if you're interested in getting these yourself, in fact, I'll
And
paste one
O-scale
down here in the chat.
Central is going to be putting together a library of what we call, I guess, open source 3D files. There are a number of people like Dan who have generously been sharing their 3D files. I think that number is going to grow a lot, and we don't have it up yet, but sometime in the next several months, we will be putting together a library, so you'll be able to do, again, one-stop shopping to find open source 3D print files. And Dan has been doing some fabulous stuff. The quality is great, and a lot of it has never been done before. So not only is 3D printing going to revolutionize the hobby generally, but it's really going to take effect with O-scale because of the small runs and limited tooling and limited orders and inventory. 3D print will take us away from most of that, and Dan is doing just some great work. Anyway, if there are other comments or questions, please continue them. And I'm going to take a run so I can get to the airport. That's my alarm. So thank you all for tuning in. And Greg, if you would stay on as long as people have things that they want to tell or ask. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I'll leave this connection up for as long as everybody wants. And I'm going to step away for a few minutes, but it'll be up for everybody to stay on as long as they want.
Hey, Greg, are you going to sell those trees?
Yeah, well, I'm still figuring out some of the details, especially with the foliage, but yeah, I'll probably sell them, and if other people are interested in getting 3D printers, I'd be happy to teach them how to do what I did.
Thanks. I got to fly, so I'll see you later.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, you bet. It's good to talk to everybody.
Greg, I definitely would be interested in the trees. I think that's a fantastic application for 3D work, especially for foreground, subjects right near the fascia of a layout.
Well, thank you, Dan. And I've seen your 3D work on GitHub, and it's outstanding. And I hope maybe you do some truck work for my NW2. Oh, and incidentally, Bob Lavezzi, who goes to the Strasbourg show, has a bunch of Centenary equipment that he wants to sell. He's getting out of all of that stuff. So contact Bob if you want to pick up some of that stuff on the cheap.
Oh, good tip. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure thing.
Dan, are you going to, by any chance, attend the East Penn Traction Club meet in May in Allentown?
I've always wanted to do that, but I have never been to one. I teach some night classes just during the spring semester after work, and that's always it always comes up that that's finals week, and I can never make it out there. So I would love to go, but it's at the Cleveland show. I will say this: so I bought your Lakeshore trailer kit, and serendipity, just a few days ago, American Scale Modelers had the trucks on eBay.
Oh, yeah.
And I won. Yay. Although I bet there was no competition.
Good.
So I'm all ready to get started. I'm super stoked for it.
Yeah, they have a nice big traction modular setup. That's amazing how they get all that overhead working so nice.
Yes,
For the
I'd love to
show.
take a look at how they do the hooks at the, between modules and make that portable, because even in the static layouts, especially around town here, there's just so much TLC to keep everything running.
Yeah.
Don't sneeze when you're working on it.
Yeah. For sure. Well, I'm gonna log off, and it's been a pleasure.
Nice presentation. Thank you.
Good seeing you again, Dan. Bye now.
Oh, okay.